Good day, friends! Recently, I told you about the Earth Mystic build. Today's build is incredibly similar to it, so you will be able to master it very quickly. The gameplay is very similar, which means you will already have two builds in your arsenal. This build is called Earth-Arcanite. I won't waste a lot of words because I value your time. Only useful and practically applicable information, and nothing extra. Weapon. For this build, I use only one type of weapon, Earth Grasp Scepter. For fusing the Ranger, use the Illuvial Monkier at any stage of the game. This will give your Ranger a composite granite affinity and a composite Arcanite class. Next, let's look at the tier list of upgrades for your weapon. Top 1 in importance, Shattering Spines. Top 2, Grounded Returns. Top 3, Crippling Roots. Top 4, Bramble Patch. Top 5, Ensnaring Vines. That is, in most games, you will easily find Shattering Spines and Grounded Returns, but sometimes you may not be lucky. Then you choose the backup options in the order I mentioned. On the screen now, you see the Earth-Arcanite build in an ideal situation. That is, if you are lucky and can easily gather the same Illuvials, but of even higher stages. Great, collect them. But this will not make your build much stronger. All the main things are on the screen. Why did I highlight the Illuvial Gorilla in purple? Because this Illuvial is only needed here to fill the Earth Affinity to level 7. But if you get an Earth Augmentation, get rid of him. In this case, you can comfortably play at level 8 for a very long time. Let's break down the mechanics of this build. I will divide the gameplay into 3 stages: early game, mid-game, late game. Early game. At the start, you need to find the Illuvial TNT as soon as possible. This Illuvial will give you a granite composite, which means your Ranger will start tanking for a few seconds. You can put your Ranger in the main damage path. For a few seconds in a row, he will ignore it. Yes, the Earth Grasp Scepter weapon was originally designed as an offensive weapon, but after playing many times with a Ranger Damager in this build, it brought nothing useful. Therefore, strangely enough, your Ranger in this build should only buy a little time thanks to the granite composite. Nothing more. In addition, the unit TNT is your main damager in the early game. The Illuvial Monkier is used only to add the Earth Affinity and the Arcanite Composite class. He adds decent damage to your team at the very beginning of the game, but quickly loses effectiveness. Nevertheless, this Illuvial should never be discarded. The Illuvial Greater Alpon is a backup tank. That is, he significantly increases your team's survivability by stunning enemy melee damagers. In addition, he gives you a useful Mystic Composite class, which can be useful in the late game. But don't get hung up on him. If you see heavy competition for this Illuvial, don't worry. Mystics are useful in this build, but not critically important. They are just a supplement. The Illuvial Gorilla is very weak in this build. If you get an Earth Augmentation, forget about him. The Illuvial Lura is used to create the Bloom Composite in the late game and to control enemy range units. He is not the main damager. Be sure to keep a 0-tier Earth Illuvial until you find the Illuvial Scarabok. Ideal early game build. Level 6, Earth Affinity 7 out of 7, TNT Stage 2, Greater Alpon Stage 2. You need to reach this checkpoint as quickly as possible. When should you roll units for this stage of the game? I prefer to reach level 6 as quickly as possible and start rolling there. As soon as I get TNT, Greater Alpon, and Earth Affinity 7 out of 7, I stop rolling and start saving a little money. Mid-game. In the mid-game, your first target will be the Illuvial Furiox. He will be your main damager until you find the Illuvial Forest. Forest is your main damager. Without him, this build simply will not deal enough damage to win. The second most important Illuvial is Goliant. He provides the important granite composite and allows you to tank an incredible amount of damage. If you raise the stage of the Illuvial Lura to Lulura, this adds a minor bloom composite, slightly increasing survivability, and therefore the potential damage output from forests in prolonged fights. When to roll? At level 7, I prefer to roll Illuvials Lulura and Firiox. At level 8, I roll Illuvials Forest and Goliant. If I see little to no competition for the Illuvial Scoriox, I stay at level 8 and continue rolling it. If competition is high, I stop rolling and start saving money. Late game. In the late game, your main goal is the Illuvial Phosphorus. Yes, he is difficult to craft, but he can give you first place. He has incredibly high damage, and most importantly, he provides a useful Arcanite composite class. The Illuvial Adorius is your only healer. He can save a round that seemed impossible to win. In combination with the Illuvial Apon, he provides the Mystic composite class. Augmentations in this build, you have 3 most important units: Firiox, Phosphorus, and Goliant. Therefore, on the screen, I showed the best augmentations for them. First, let's look at legendary augmentations. Hyper Striker Protocol, a good choice to increase damage and counter air builds. Void Cleaver will give huge damage to your Firiox. Power Cubes, a good choice, considering Firiox has high attack speed. This augmentation is especially effective against dense builds like Colossi or Bulwarks. Berserker's Flurry allows your Phosphorus to maintain a safe position. Transcendent Relic. Thanks to your build's long survivability, Phosphorus will almost always benefit from this augmentation. Temporal Guard. Phosphorus uses the Omega ability very often, which means he will become almost invulnerable with this augmentation. Hyper Striker Protocol. A decent choice against air builds and for increasing damage. Inner Limit Breaker gives a great survivability boost to Goliant. Blightfire. Use this augmentation if your Goliant is tanking well and you have a good advantage. Thanks to Goliant's long life, he will burn the health of nearby units. Now let's look at regular augmentations. Hyperforce Reactor, ideal for your Firiox. Important note, do not put 2 of the same augmentation on him. Otherwise, his attack speed will quickly hit the maximum limit of 250, and the augmentations will stop increasing the advantage. Disruptive Force Reactor, great counter to air builds. Piercing Force Reactor gives a good damage boost to Firiox, considering his high attack speed. For Phosphorus, Hyperforce Reactor and Disruptive Force Reactor are excellent. For Goliant, there are 2 styles. If you understand that Goliant really survives long, choose Reflecting Stasis Reactor to increase his damage, or Reassuring Stasis Reactor, which makes him almost immortal. If you lack survivability, choose Phasing Stasis Reactor or Dense Stasis Reactor. Adorius loves high attack speed, so Hyper Striker Protocol is a great choice for him. You can even put 2 of these on him. It won't be a mistake. The Steadfast Void Reactor augmentation is one of the worst in the game, but in this build, it is a decent choice for Illuvials surrounded by your allies. With this augmentation, your team will live a little longer. And of course, if you are really lucky, always, and in any situation, choose augmentations that give you the needed composites. Granite and Arcanite. Granite is significantly more important. If you get Granite Composite 4/4, your build's survivability will increase significantly. Drone upgrades. I have several favorite drone upgrades for this build. If you lack survivability and your team is destroyed quickly, choose Second Wind. 10 seconds into the battle, your team heals for 40% of their max health. If you survive for a long time, choose these upgrades. Battle Momentum. Every 5 seconds into the battle, your units gain 8% attack speed. Stone Resilience. Your units gain 20 grit and resolve at 50% health. Special attention should be given to Veteran's Might. 2 random Tier 4 units gain 40% attack damage and 12% Omnivamp. Yes, this is not a typical choice, since in your build there is only 1 Tier 4 unit. But if you see no competition for the Illuvial Scoriox, you can choose this upgrade, because Scoriox with a huge damage buff can tear enemy teams apart. And, as I have said many times, do not forget the Earth Augmentation, which can appear in drone upgrades. Placements, friends. It is impossible to know in advance which placement your opponent will use, so I will analyze the 2 most popular placements currently. Corner placement. Usually, in such placements, bulwarks are in front, empaths next to them, and a damager like Blazonite or Scoriox in the corner. In this case, you have several tasks. 1. Goliant should take the main damage, but position him so his Omega Ghost hits the corner target and stuns it. This way, the opponent loses main damage. 2. Phosphorus should not enter the fight first. Let the opponents aggro on Goliant first, and a second later, Forest comes. His Omega deals damage to the furthest target in his line of sight, so position him to hit as many targets as possible. 3. It is important to correctly position Tianti and Adorius. Tianti should be the furthest target, so that the abilities going to the furthest target hit him. 4. Furiox should be close enough so that abilities do not hit him for long. He excels against such placements thanks to area damage. Of course, this is just one example. In the real game, you always need to slightly modify this placement. This is just a basic guideline. Rogue's placement. All rogues always jump behind you, so your placement must be completely different. Defensive units move down. Main damage should be taken by Goliant and the Ranger. They have the granite effect, so they ignore most of it. Apon should be next to Furiox to increase his damage and act as the next level of defense after the main tanks die. Phosphorus should enter the fight later than the other units, so place him in the center, at the top. Pay attention to the placement of Adorius and Tianti. If positioning fails for some reason, these Illuvials will take some damage. This is normal. The main thing, buy time for Phosphorus and Furiox to live. Armor. In this build, the Ranger serves as cannon fodder. That is, he lives literally a few seconds, until the granite composite effect wears off, and then quickly dies. Therefore, we focus on upgrades that give a strong instant effect. In this build, it is not worth spending much money re-rolling armor. Examples of good upgrades for Ranger survivability. Luminara's Curse. Once per combat at 75% and 45% health, the Ranger blinds all enemies within a 22 radius for 2.5 seconds and reduces their resistance and attack speed by 15%. Adamantine Shield. On battle start, gain a shield equal to 75% of max health. Crashing Bastion. On combat. Start, the Ranger and the 3 closest allies gain a shield equal to 10% of their max health. When the shield expires, it explodes, dealing damage based on the initial shield amount. Again, no need to spend much money to find these exact upgrades. These are just decent examples that allow your Ranger to tank as long as possible with this weapon. Creating such videos takes a lot of time. I would greatly appreciate it if you enter my referral code in your profile settings on Illuvidex. It's easy and free. Click your nickname at the top right, select Profile, then Account Settings. Enter Winnie and referral code and click Confirm. Your support helps me continue making educational videos. Thank you, and see you next time.